Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life of simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. I remember at the beginning of sobriety, it seemed like everything was going my way. It was going so well that I honestly started wondering why I waited so long to get sober and why everybody else was saying it was so hard. Then life gave me a left hook, then another one. And right when I started to get back up, life knocked me down again. Then it seemed like nothing ever was going to go my way again and that sobriety was always going to suck. But right when I was considering giving up, things started turning around again. Just like nature goes through seasons, I learned that we'll also go through seasons in our recovery. So how do we best navigate each season? Are there ways to avoid the winters or at least make them less harsh? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. Just like nature, we have seasons in our lives, and this is no different in our recovery journeys. Not everybody starts recovery in the same season, but there are patterns, and most of the time the seasons follow each other just like in nature. Most of us are coming out of a long, dark winter when we first get sober and often go into a spring season. In nature, this is where the new seeds are planted. This is when it's easiest to grow. In recovery, this first spring season is when we're regularly accomplishing new milestones, not just sobriety milestones like 30, 60, or 90 days sober, but other milestones also. We may be fixing parts of our lives, like getting a license back or repairing some of our relationships. We often find a new supportive community within recovery. We might get a new job. We go to that first family gathering where we are around alcohol and we don't drink. Everything seems new and exciting, and growth happens often and fast. This is often called the pink cloud stage of recovery because things feel great during this season. Then at some point in the growth process, we'll enter the summer season. Since we've experienced a lot of growth from the spring season, this is often where we start trying some new things. This is when we allow the growth from the spring season to ripen. Summer is also the time that we're able to celebrate our accomplishments and thrive. This is the time to go out and play. This is the season to explore. With our new growth, we have developed a stronger intuition and started seeing how the growth in spring might have opened up more opportunities. Maybe we start listening to that intuition and start to try to do things in ways that feel authentic to us. There are some things we might have given up out of the fear of drinking that we start to try to introduce back into our lives. We might decide to try dating someone sober. This is when we start trying out everything we learned in the spring to see how it works in our lives. However, if we try to jump right into summer without doing the necessary planting and growing in the spring, we often will face challenges in the summer as we may not be prepared. However, if we come into summer prepared, it could be one of the best seasons. If we've done a good job of planting seeds, growing in the spring, and learning through the summer, when we move into autumn, we get to reap the rewards. But as autumn progresses, we might start noticing that things are changing. In nature, this is when the leaves start changing colors and start to fall to the ground. In recovery, this is where we might start shedding some of our old belief systems. We might finally let go of some friendships that were holding us back. We also might start letting go some of the guilt and shame of our past. The growth and exploration that we did in the spring and summer were necessary to make us strong enough to begin letting go of these things. Then winter comes. This can often be the hardest season to navigate. We might now look back at the bare trees with sadness. We might start to remember how beautiful it was in the fall when the leaves were changing colors and wonder why we let those leaves fall to the ground to rot. But winter has its advantages too. It could be a time to reflect on our past seasons. We could see the areas where we grew in the spring, learned in the summer, and were able to reap the benefits in the fall from the growth and exploration in the previous seasons. If we navigate these seasons correctly, life can be much easier. There are reasons for each season, and understanding not only the season we are in, but also what we should be doing in the next season will help. You could be the best farmer in the world, but if you plant in the winter, nothing will grow. If instead we plant in the spring and push through the hot summer, you get to have the fall where you harvest and prepare for winter, and then we'll be properly prepared for that winter. Winter can be one of the most challenging seasons to navigate. People fight the hardest to avoid it, but it is unavoidable. I heard Tony Robbins say that one of the biggest problems people have in life is thinking that they shouldn't have any problems. You'll hear these people usually say things like, "Why does this always keep happening to me?" Often things will appear in our lives until we finally address the underlying causes of it. Lessons not learned will often repeat themselves. If you show up at the same place as the same person, you will get similar results. It isn't bad luck. It is resistant to the change necessary within us to get a different result. Most people choose to just suffer through the winter, and when it finally clears, just hope that another winter doesn't come. This usually happens when we resist changes we need to make to move forward. It could be old belief systems that we hold on to, old ways of doing things that have worked in the past but no longer do, or relationships that we're clinging on to that no longer are healthy for us. These things we hold on to are usually stopping our personal growth. If we suffer through a cold winter without enough firewood to keep us warm all season, we have two choices. We could either keep doing things the same, or we could choose to spend extra time in the fall of the next year preparing better for the next winter. As tough as our winter might be, it is important to remember that not all seasons last, and each is necessary for our growth. The beautiful changing leaves that we're sad to see fall only to leave a bare tree are necessary for growth too. Those leaves served a purpose for the season they were there. They provided the shade the tree needed in the summer to protect it from the heat, but they still serve a purpose after they fall. As they decay, they provide the nutrients to feed the tree and help it grow even stronger. They become part of the tree, but they serve a new purpose. In recovery, the leaves dying and falling from the trees represent letting go of the things that no longer serve us. If the tree clung to those dead leaves, there would be no room for new growth in the upcoming spring. In life, when we hold on to things from the past instead of letting go, we also do not allow room for growth in the next spring. It is important to understand the seasons to anticipate and prepare for new seasons. The changing seasons are unavoidable, but we could take steps to better prepare for and navigate them. Most people just wing it. When things are going well, they assume they're always going to be going great and don't prepare for the winter. Then they're unprepared and devastated when winter comes. The people who navigate tough times better than others are not thicker skinned or better at solving problems. They are better prepared. They are taking steps to anticipate certain yet unknown obstacles. Think about when you're driving a car. If you're spacing out when you're driving, you're less likely to be able to anticipate potential hazards. But if you're paying attention to the car in front of you whose driver is staring at their cell phone and unable to stay in their lane, you're much better prepared to avoid an accident. But if you do not anticipate the potential hazard as you pass them, they may merge into your lane and you'll only be able to react. And reacting might involve swerving to avoid getting hit, but in that reacting, you might actually be swerving into another car and end up causing an accident that you are blamed for. Is that fair? No. Was it avoidable if you anticipated it though? Yes. Life is the same. How many situations have you been in where things that happened to you were unfair? Maybe you had an amazing job and were making more money than you have ever before. It is easy to think this will last forever, so you adjust your lifestyle accordingly. You sign a lease on a bigger apartment and buy new furniture to fill it. Then you buy your dream car with the car payment that was higher than you were paying for rent at your last apartment, but you justify it because you can afford it now. You go on a couple vacations that you had to temporarily put on a credit card, but you know that you can now afford the higher credit card payments with your current salary. Even with all the extra spending, you find that you could still live comfortably. But then you get laid off, and because the economy isn't the greatest, the next job you get pays less. Now you could barely afford the fancy car or the new apartment, and the credit card bills are starting to go unpaid. This is when many of us blame the outside circumstances, the company that laid us off, the economy, whoever we choose to blame for the bad economy, as well as the predatory credit card companies. But we could have anticipated a winter if we understood the seasons and how no season lasts forever. The winter would have not been as harsh if we were building up a savings account before spending all that extra money. Winters are unavoidable, but there is a big difference between spending a winter in a rundown shack with no heat, a leaky roof, and just enough supplies to survive, and spending a winter in a cabin where we prepared for the winter by maintaining the roof so it doesn't leak, chopping and storing firewood, and having a whole winter full of supplies already stocked. Life is the same. Recovery is the same. Whatever season you are in right now, know that you are there for a reason, and they are all necessary for your growth. I have experienced some harsh winters in my recovery, but the harshest winters resulted in the most beautiful springs, during which I experienced my greatest periods of growth. The saying that is always darkest before the dawn has always rang true. So if you're struggling right now or going through tough times and questioning whether you could do it, remember that no season lasts forever. And if you're currently in a winter, spring is just around the corner. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here's your weekly challenge. Look at the people in your life and see if you could recognize anyone who is going through a winter season right now. See if there's a way you could bring a little warmth and hope during their current season. Even in the winters that we're most prepared for, they're much easier to navigate knowing that we have support from others. Choose to be that support in someone else's life today. That is my challenge for you this episode. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening and keep living sober and happy.